It says that we are live in Aini Living Conversations, the 202nd session. No, wait, that's 203rd sessions, 203, where we get together with Blue Hair and Women, and I'm Julian Catari, and we speak about an extensive curriculum of research investigations coming from Owl Council House and the project of AlohaAiniDaoLiving.com. Check that out. And this time we are on the second session of the Womanhood and Manhood. We're exploring what it entails to be a man, what it entails to be a woman, what are the properties, the principles that the genders have. And the more we know about this, the better we can be free from the entanglements of a deceiving web, a deceiving society that was created to enslave us. And so that's why it's so crucial to understand and to talk about womanhood and manhood. So welcome to this conversation. How are you doing, Blue Hair and Woman?
Fabulous.
Great. So, and here we are, a man and a woman, which is, I think it's great
Yeah.
to have this conversation. It's balanced, and it should always be balanced. May I say that our elders, or in the native traditions, we always paid a lot of attention when we created groups, when we created dances and ceremonies. We always procured to have a very balanced group and circle. You don't want to have too many women in the circle, too many men. You don't want to be in the circle where the women are on one side and the men are on the other side. You want to have that intertwined as neatly as you can, as balanced as possible, so the energies can be balanced. And you were talking about some wonderful things about the principles of manhood and womanhood. Everything resonated and stuck with me and has helped me understand better. So I'm expecting that we're going to get a lot more with this conversation.
Yeah. Well, so last week we went through the rite of warriorhood, being a warrior. Because as a general West, we haven't really observed rites. We have religions like the Jews that have their rites, and then we have the natives. But as the general Christian population, there's no rights. None. So the right of warriorship was the first one. Now we have the right of work, the economic man or woman.
Mm-hmm.
So preparations, and this is very much masculine, not even in the women, is this economic man. Preparations for the male ritual of work begin even before the age of schooling, for the female as well, of course. So we ask kids, whether they're males or females, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mm-hmm.
Boys are taught early that they are what they do. And a 15-year-old boy said, very enlighteningly, schools are designed to teach you to take life sitting down. Think about that. They prepare you to work in office buildings, to sit in rows or cubicles, to be on time, not to talk back, and to let someone else grade you. That's some of the most profound wisdom we could ever have from a 15-year-old boy. It's what we're prepared to do from age 5 on up.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, work was considered a curse. As a result of Adam and Eve's sin, we were driven from the Garden of Eden and forced to earn our bread by the sweat of our brows. So until the time of the Protestant Reformation, the world was divided between the realm of the secular, to which work and the common life belonged, and the realm of the sacred, which was the monopoly of the church. Martin Luther changed all this by declaring that every man and every woman had a sacred vocation. The plowman and the housewife, no less than the priest, were called by God to express their piety in the common life of the community. So gradually, the notion of the priesthood of all believers came to mean that every man and every woman has a calling to a meaningful secular work. Then we enter the feudal era, which manhood involved becoming the lord of a manor, the head of a household, or the husbandman of land. As the Industrial Revolution progressed, men were increasingly pulled out of the context of nature, family, church, and community to find the meaning of their lives in trading, the industry, the arts, and the professions, while women practiced their vocations by ministering to the needs of the home and practicing charity in the community. So gradually, getting and spending. Now, Aini is receiving and giving. We have here the total opposite of Aini. Getting and spending assumed the place of greatest importance, virtually replacing all of the old activities that previously defined manhood, like growing food, reading, being curious, celebrating, dancing, and playing. Men no longer found their place beneath the dome of stars within the brotherhood of animals by the fire of the hearth or in the company of his fellow humans. He became economic man, and so did women. Took a little bit longer, but economic man or woman spends his or her days with colleagues, lawyers, customers, fellow workers, suppliers, and other strangers. At night, he or she returns to a house that has been empty during the day. If he or she is successful, his or her security, the Latin is securus, means free from care, rests in their investments. And again, the Latin, vestment, means a religious garment. In stocks and bonds and other commodities whose future value depends on the whims of the market. So in the secular theology of economic man, work has replaced God as the source from whom all blessings flow. And even in the neo-shamanism, all the spiritual gurus, money is energy, money is just an aspect of God from which, no, 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 no. Let's get rid of that idea. Increasingly, we're living in places where we are anonymous and seek to find our community at work. Companies, corporations are trying to make the workplace the new home, the new family. To be real, offices are in many ways nicer places to live. For the example, the view outside my office window might be nicer than the view from my bedroom window. Inside the office, it's clean and well lit. Somebody comes by each night and tidies up. Home is where you have to do this all for yourself, unless you pay buku bucks to have a housekeeper come in. In the modern world, the delusion about work and happiness enables people not only to endure oppression, but to seek it and believe they're happier because of the very work that oppresses them. Is that not a paradox? And it's so true. It's such a true paradox. At the heart of the delusion, the delusion lies the manager's definition of happiness. Sweat and dirty hands signify oppression, and the coat and tie signify happiness, freedom, and a good life. So man and women have abandoned the power to define happiness for ourselves, and now we do not attempt to regain it. We human beings can survive so long as we make a living. However, we don't thrive without a sense of significance that we gain only by creating something that we feel is of lasting value. And this is why the Incas knew that if their lifespan was 70 years, they had to do something that would impact 700 years. And all medieval, even all medieval builders, craftsmen knew that. And that's what they did. They didn't build buildings. They didn't build houses for their current family. They built them for their unborn and unborn and unborn and unborn.
Okay.
So when the requirements of our work do not match our creative potential, we rust out and we are burned out without having ever been on fire in this day and age. And it's because we have allowed ourselves to be engulfed by a meta body, a masculine womb, the corporation. Our tender, wild, and succulent bodies are being deformed to suit the needs of the body corporate. The more a corporation or institute or profession requires the sacrifice of individuality of its members, the more it requires uniform wear. You're required to wear a uniform, you're now sacrificing your individuality. Mm-hmm. And we need to understand that lawyers concern themselves with what is legal, not with what is just. So when we live within the horizons of the economical myth, we begin to consider it honorable for a man or woman to do whatever he or she must do to make a living. We adopt a marketing orientation toward ourselves. When we mold ourselves into commodities and we practice smiling and charm so we will have winning personalities and learn to sell ourselves and practice the silly art of power dressing, we are certain to be haunted by a sense of emptiness. Men in our culture and women have been conditioned, domesticated to carry the burden of unconsciousness, of ignorance of the self, to not examine our lives. And the unexamined life is worth quite a lot in economic terms, but it causes damage untold, especially for men. The outer directed culture that rewards men for being strangers to themselves, unacquainted with feeling, intuition, or the subtleties of sensation and dreams is ultimately damaging. So many of the personality characteristics that have been traditionally considered masculine would be aggression and rationality are not. They are not. Aggression and rationality are not innate or biological components of maleness, but are products of an era in which men have been socially assigned the chief roles in warfare and economic order. And women executives have proven themselves to be equal in every way to men in this way, including callousness. So economic man or woman, the creature who defines itself within the horizons of work and consumption is not man or woman in any full sense of the word, but a being who has been neutralized, degendered, and rendered subservient to the laws of the market. The danger of economics is not that it turns women into men or men into women, but that it destroys the fullness of both manhood and womanhood. So the dignity of man and women lies not in work, but in discovering how we can impact the next 700 to 1,000 years in a beautiful way. So in working so much, do we do ultimate violence to our bodies? I think we do. Mm-hmm. So let's now talk about how the illusion of money keeps us in poverty. Mm-hmm. Going from economic man to, right? Because most of us feel like we're pretty poor.
And we got to get this through our heads because we have a hard time creating relationships without. We need to start creating relationships.
Yeah.
Even entrepreneurships that are not money bound.
Exactly. Right. That are not profit and loss bound. Mm-hmm. So money can be a way of measuring one type of wealth, and yet money is not wealth itself. Mm-hmm. If we define ourselves by money, we are confusing ourselves with bookkeeping. Here we all are, frantic little bookkeepers, scribbling away in our ledgers, adding up columns of profit with all the intensity of medieval monks copying scripture. And yet we have no clue what wealth really is. It's like a master chef who becomes so utterly enchanted with his or her cookbook that he actually never cooks. He or she spends their days caressing the pages, memorizing every recipe, and meanwhile the kitchen grows cold, the ingredients spoil, and the guests go home hungry. And this is what we've done with money. We've fallen in love with the recipe and we've forgotten about the feast. So what is real wealth? Well, close your eyes and feel the weight of your body. The air moving in and out of your lungs. That's wealth. That is absolute wealth. The fact that you're breathing without effort, without payment, without negotiation with the atmosphere. The real wealth is in our morning coffee or tea that actually warms our belly, not in the dollar bills we exchange for it. It's the roof that keeps the rain off our heads, not the mortgage payments. It's the embrace of someone who truly sees us, not the anniversary gift we bought to express what we couldn't say. Money is simply the tool we use. It is not energy. It is not an expression of the field of God. It is simply a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Give a child the most expensive toy in the world and they'll play with it only briefly. But give them a cardboard box and then now they've got a house, a spaceship, a secret cave, a robot, or something else, anything they can imagine to do with it. The child knows something we've forgotten. The joy is in the thing, is not in the thing, it's in the play. But we adults have become so sophisticated, we've learned to measure everything we know. The square footage of our homes, the horsepower of our vehicles, the thread count of our sheets. Yet, when did we measure the quality of our sleep? That is a luxury, that is wealth. And when do we count the number of genuine laughs in a day? That's also wealth. How many times can I laugh a day? Plenty. So we live in a cult or culture, just take the UREF, culture, and it becomes a cult, right? That has created more money and stuff, more money and stuff wealth than any civilization in history. And yet we feel poor. We feel anxious, like we're running out of something. What is it we're running out of? Time, money, or security? Or have we simply forgotten to recognize abundance when it is staring at us right in the face? We've been told over and over that the map is not the territory, but we think it is. So the map would be money. So money would be the territory. So we've become a civilization of people who spend so much time studying maps that we've forgotten how to take walks. We know the exact distance to the nearest coffee shop, but we've forgotten to feel like to what it feels like to wander without a destination.
Mm-hmm.
The more we try to capture life in our accounts and measurements and 5-year plans, the more life slips through our fingers like water. Life is to be experienced, not grasped, and we've substituted money for life. I'm not suggesting we throw away our wallets and live in caves. That would just be another form of the same confusion, another way of making money far more important than it needs to be. So the invitation here is to see money for what it actually is, a very useful tool.
Mm-hmm.
When you pick up a hammer, you don't confuse yourself with the hammer. When you use a telephone, you don't think you're the telephone. But yet somehow with money, we've made this error, and we have spiritual gurus telling us, become the money, you are the money. And then we think our bank balance is our identity. We need to relate to money the way a musician relates to an instrument. Piano is not the music. The piano is what makes the music possible. The pianist doesn't worship the piano or identify with it. The pianist plays the piano.
Yeah.
So what music are we trying to make with our life? Is our relationship with money helping us play music, or is it drowning out the melody?
Mm.
The confusion we have about money is just one symptom of a much larger enchantment. We live in a culture that has taught us to mistake a symbol for the reality in almost everything we do. Well, once upon a time, humans discovered that they could use tokens to represent value for exchange of goods. And then we got fascinated by the shininess of the tokens themselves. The game of accumulating these symbols, these tokens, became addictive. And why shouldn't it be? It's a thrilling game. More, more, more. What a seductive word. More money, more security, more status, more power. The word more has a magnetic pull. But the game has rules that ensure we can never win because the goalpost is always moving. We think, I'll be happy when I get a raise. I'll be happy when this happens or that happens. And then when it happens, we're still not happy because we need more to make us happy. The Zen masters call this the hungry ghost, a creature with an enormous appetite and a mouth too small to feed itself. Always hungry, never satisfied.
Wow.
I'm not criticizing us for getting caught up in this game. The problem isn't the game, is that we've forgotten it's a game.
Yeah, we don't have any choice. Yet we need to know about it if we want to get out of it.
Yes, exactly. So the hypnosis of this game depends on our agreement to remain asleep to it. And money only works because we all believe in it. The moment we see money as an agreement, we realize how deeply we want to participate, and then we can play the game without being played by it. So my example of that was when I was applying for VA disability.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take me long. Finally, it at one point in Washington, it dawned on me when I had been with the interviewer that it was only the word. It wasn't the story. There was one word I said that shifted her. And that's what I got increased money for. Just one word.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was when we were here in this house, when we finally got to this house, and I met a guy, an old man who had been a veteran service officer, and he started telling me about the words. It was then that I realized that it's all a game. And so I played the game, and I got 100% disability for PTSD, and I don't have PTSD. I didn't get consumed by the game. But every single other veteran out there has gotten consumed by the game.
Mm-hmm. They
think they have to have. No, it's just a word game. Play the freaking word game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the way money. That's just one example, but that's the way money works. It's a game.
Mm-hmm.
So that magical moment when we have enough will never come, because the system depends on us wanting more. We sell our present time, the only time we have, for a future that will never arrive. What if I told you that we're already wealthy beyond measure? The secret to break the spell is not to fight it, but to play with it. So now let's look at what it means to play the money game with a free hand. Because the real secret of life is to be completely engaged with what we're doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it's play. So there's two kinds of people who handle money. Number one is the tight-fisted, and number two is the free-handed. The tight-fisted person clutches every dollar, hoards every penny, approaches every financial decision with fear and scarcity. And the open-handed person knows that money hoarded is not nourishing anything. It's not being used to further beauty or joy, connection, or experience. The free-handed player understands that money is meant to circulate. And the people who have the healthiest relationship with money are not the ones who have the most. They're the ones who know that money is a tool. So when you buy food, you're not really buying food, you're buying the energy that will fuel your next creative project or moment of laughter. When you pay rent, you're paying for the space where your life unfolds, where you sleep and dream and love and think. So when you start seeing it this way, spending money becomes an act of participation rather than loss. And the free-handed player doesn't spend money carelessly or compulsively. They ask, will this purchase enhance life or diminish it? Money is a terrible master, and it's an excellent servant. The tight-fisted person is enslaved by money. They're so afraid of losing it that it controls their every decision. The free-handed money free-handed person uses money as a tool. They ask, how can I give more beauty and love? How can I express my talents in ways that genuinely help others? And the more we focus on giving beauty and love rather than getting money, the more money flows. It's an effect of aligning with the flow of life. The free-handed player says, how can I receive money in a way that energizes me? How can I make my work a form of play? It means approaching our work with curiosity and playfulness, a spirit of experimentation and growth. Change comes from expansion, not contraction, from possibility, not desperation, and a desire to give more of ourselves, not to protect what little we have. So the free-handed player also understands timing. They develop intuition, the ability to feel their way through life and not just analyze it. Intuition develops when we stop being afraid of money and start being curious about it. When we start treating it as a creative medium, because that's what it is. What kind of world are we creating with our money? What kind of world are we funding with our financial choices? And with this understanding comes tremendous freedom. Not freedom to do whatever we want without consequences. That's just another form of slavery. The freedom to choose consciously, to act with intent, to play the money game as a conscious participant rather than an unconscious victim. So, are we ready to stop being afraid of money and use it without being used by it? When we say yes to this is when we discover what wealth really means. We are an aperture. Each one of us is a different aperture through which the universe or God is looking at itself and exploring itself. So every sunset we witness, every experience we experience, every conversation we enjoy, every moment of beauty or sadness or confusion is the universe or God experiencing itself through our consciousness. And since that's absolute immutable truth, then what does it mean to say we don't have enough? What does it mean to say we're poor? That would be rather like the wave in the ocean worrying that it doesn't have enough water to wave. So let's look at an example of two men sitting on a park bench, both looking at the same sunset. One is beautifully dressed, frantically checking his phone, reviewing stock prices, responding to emails. He glances at the sunset once briefly and then goes back to his screen. The second man is wearing worn clothes, carrying all his possession in a backpack, clearly what we call homeless, and yet sitting perfectly still, completely absorbed in watching the colors change across the sky, his face lit with wonder, with gratitude, and with something approaching reverence. Who do you think is the wealthiest of these two men? The man with money is poor because he's missing the incredible gift that is offered freely. The man without money is rich beyond measure because he is fully present to the beauty of existence itself. This is what we've forgotten, that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought or sold. They can only be received, and they're being constantly offered to us, moment by moment, breath by breath. The warmth of the sunlight on our skin is free. The taste of cool water when we're feeling thirsty is free. The sound of rain on the roof, the sight of stars in the clear night sky, the feeling of air filling our lungs, all priceless, all available right now, freely. We live in the midst of wealth so vast and generous and so fundamental and extraordinary that if we could truly see it, we'd really be overwhelmed with gratitude. But we've trained ourselves to look past this freely given wealth to focus on the tiny fraction of life that must be purchased. And it doesn't even need to be purchased. We've been convinced it needs to be purchased. So to use the tool without being used by it is the discovery that we're already wealthy beyond imagination, not because of what we have, but because of what we are, human and alive. So there's two kinds of wealth. One is symbolic, which is money, possessions, status, and credentials, and the other is the ability to experience life in its fullness. So if we had all the money in the world, if we were Bill Gates or Elon Musk, and we're in a coma, what good would that do? Would the money do anything? Yet consciousness, the simple fact that we exist and feel and perceive, that's the ultimate treasure. It can't be stolen. And once we understand this, we can stop being desperate for money because we're no longer dependent on it for our sense of worth, our security, or our joy. Money is just a useful tool. That's all it is. It's not energy. It's just a useful tool that we can learn how to do without at some point. When we understand this, we can appreciate when we have it and not be devastated when we don't have as much as we like. We can stop being afraid of not having enough because fear makes us grasp and hoard and make poor decisions. So when we really realize that our fundamental wealth can't be threatened, we're free to be creative, generous, and playful with money, to give freely when giving is called for. And when we remember that our fundamental worth is not our net worth, we approach money this way, we stop defining ourselves as someone who is in debt. We then are consciously one who has financial obligations to resolve. It's a problem, not an identity crisis. If we try to build net worth, approaching it from this perspective, we focus on molding value in the world rather than just accumulating symbols. We then ask, how can I use my unique gifts to serve life in a way that also supports my material needs? The practical and the philosophical are not separate. They inform each other. So now we can be inspired by the possibility of using money as a tool to participate in life more fully. And when we handle money, notice what it's supposed to represent, which is not the free wealth that surrounds us, the gift of consciousness and experience. And we realize that we are matter that has organized itself to become aware of itself. We are stardust that has learned to think and feel and wonder, and this is our true capital. We are the wealth that we see all around us.
Wow. That's inspiring and necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That has totally shifted me. Because people, as I put on Facebook this spring, how many kid goats were born, it was like, oh, you're affluent now. No, my family has just increased in size. I've been blessed with an increase in family. No, my wealth is having the relationship with my goats and my pigs and my everything, my family.
Yeah.
And being able to sit around and do what I want when I want and not be prompted by a time clock. It's just gone so much. It's just that this has just helped me realize just how truly wealthy I am. That has nothing to do with money.
Yeah. Well, so this is it feels like there's, this, nothing you said was too much, and yet feels like there's so much more to talk about men and womanhood.
Oh yeah, well, the next right then is the right of sex, magic wands and private tools. But we're not going to go into that tonight.
Okay. And next week you're going to be in Peru.
Yes. And the week after that too.
Amazing. So are we going to have
next week I'll still be here.
Okay. You're leaving on the 17th around-ish, right? Yes, we're going to be 15th.
Friday. So I'll still be here next week. So next week we'll get into the rite of sex.
The rite, as in, I have the right?
RITE, the ritual, right.
Oh, the rite. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I like that. I like that conversation. I like this. I think it's a crucial thing to speak about this and to open up the conversation about this, and I don't know what's happening with people. Are they too shy? Are they too scared? I guess the ones that somehow get this message are choose to stay quiet, and that shouldn't be. I think they should have, they should start participating, and they should start coming out, seeing, trying to make connections, and applying everything that they're learning, not just stay quiet and not want to engage into conflict. I think conflict, and we talked about this, it's a necessary interaction to get somewhere. We need to talking about things, and we need to get the sexes talking about the sexes, and then women together talk about what their situations, their feelings, their interpretations of everything is. We need to get talking about relationships, because everything is connected. So the way that you have your relationships occur to you is going to have an effect, even if it's not a visibly logic, intellectual, direct connection effect. Somehow intuitively, it's going to connect with everything else that manifests in your life. So if we're not taking a look at everything in our lives, including our relationships, then, like you talked today, manifesting the tool of money is not going to be quite the same. Everything is connected in us, and we need to connect everything, and we need to come out of the cave. But today's the cave day, so today we don't come out of the cave.
Yeah. No, it's relations is everything. Relations with everything. I mean, it's when we get into the medieval builders, it was a relationship with what they were building. It was, I mean, so take, for instance, there's an 800-year-old barn in England that was built by monks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wattle and daub. The wattle is young branches weaved in between the timbers, and the daub is mud that was mixed together with fresh cow dung, straw, and clay and water.
Mm-hmm.
And it has stood for 800 years, but there's nothing in America that has stood. There is absolutely nothing other than the pyramids in America that were built by indigenous. There has been nothing that has been built by colonizer settlers that could even begin to last for 800 years. And we think we're so much more progressed. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Pantheon still is there. Why? Because their concrete techniques were much different than ours.
Yeah, everything was designed to last, and now everything's designed to not last.
Well, and it wasn't just that. It was they were in relationship with what they were building, which would impact people they wouldn't even meet.
Mm-hmm.
It's relationship. We're not hardly in relationship with anything in our modern technological world. That's one of the biggest problems.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's such a big problem. But I guess this is going to help us get through it, and and you're welcome, dear watcher, to continue watching these conversations. We're going to have one next week where we go on into this the right of the sexes, and
not the right of the sexes, just the right of sex, right of making love, the right of having sex.
Okay, the right of sex.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's going to help you understand more about this, and hopefully you'll find ways to apply this that is not just hearing about it on the through the internet. Let's use the internet to get to communicate, but let's do something in the real world.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, do you want to say anything else?
Well, we'll go a little bit more into the wattle and daub buildings that are still all over Britain and other European countries. What's the difference? Our houses are engineered to be vapor proof, but yet with every breath a family exhales, we're putting water vapor into the air. This is where we're so disconnected. Every time we boil water, every time we take a shower, every time we take a bath, every time we do laundry, breathing, we're putting gallons and gallons and gallons of water vapor into the air. And yet our houses are built, our modern technological, beautiful houses are built to exclude everything and just trap. There we go, grasping at the air that's in, that we're paying to heat and to cool, right? But we can't grasp it, we can't hold it. And so when all this air, all this moisture that we're breathing out and putting in hits all these wonderful progressive products we've made, like particle board that is wood chopped up and glued back together, that synthetic glue becomes a sponge that attracts the water. And then what happens? Black mold. Wattle and daub, the cow manure, the fresh cow manure in the daub, in the mud, has enzymes in it that protect against that. And now the mud, the daub becomes now the wall with the wattle and daub becomes a living, breathing thing that the clay and the cow dung and the straw absorb the water, and then when the air in the room dries out, it releases it, and there's no pooling, there's no condensation. Builders were in relationship with what they were building to know that it was a living, breathing thing. We're not in relationship with anything other than money.
Sounds harsh, but...
And we're so poor because of it. We are so freaking poor because of it.
Yes, and oh man, and if I can criticize a little bit, because then on top of that we get this worship, new age gaslight worship of some type of false pretend like you're rich and just pretend you're good, and if you project that, you're going to attract that. And this, like, bad applications of the law of attraction. I think all of that starts, we need to first touch bottom and realize where we are, and this is really helpful what you say.
Yeah,
we need to understand that we are immersed in a system that makes us extremely poor.
Yeah. In every which way it possibly can.
You can gaslight yourself so much about that because nobody wants to acknowledge that. Nobody wants to acknowledge that. But once you do, then you can start attracting true wealth and using the laws of attraction properly. But first you need to acknowledge the situation, right? Acknowledge where you are. You're not a victim. You stop playing the victim role of the situation, which means then you need to get very creative and you need to become very inspired to create and to find your way out of this maze that we're all finding ourselves in. And that is not achieved by just playing that we are okay and by saying, oh, this is just such a, it's okay, we're already in the new era, we just have to dream it into becoming. And I don't know, I see a lot of folks kind of just unable to do this analysis of the world. Everything that we share here, it's just stuff sometimes they don't want to hear about it. They'd
Yeah.
rather just think that it's not real and that we're just going to be saved and that something's good going to happen without them having to
Lift a finger.
lift a
Be
finger,
responsible. Right.
be
No, that's
responsible,
the
all of
that's
that,
the
and hearing about it, being able to listen or to read, right?
that's Christianity with its rapture. Seventh-day Adventism with its second coming of Christ. That's where Jesus is just going to come in a little cloud and take us all to heaven. And then that's the Seventh-day Adventists that believe that. It's the other Christians, denominational Christians, all believe in a rapture. I don't know what their vision of rapture is, if it's the same, but they've got some, and it's like I said to my very Christian friend, you work in I can't understand how you think you can work your life every day doing your best to fuck up Mother Earth, and God's just going to come and take you away and say, it's okay. I'll fix it for you. I mean, like he works in a factory who's got an MSDS probably taller than two of him put together, of all the toxicness it creates.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this belief system of just believe it and that's enough. I mean,
well, and then you have the shamans like Dr. Violdo who teach that. Well, and Jacobo Grinberg apparently did too. Money is just energy. No. If money was an emanation of consciousness, it would be laying around all over and we could just go gather it from the forest. No. Yeah. Money was created by man. It was created by an idea, which is what
it's not even a creation. It's just an agreement.
Exactly.
A systemical agreement with a very weird functioning of inflammatory, inflationary nature.
Well, and we have to understand that money, the current system we have is over 300 years, 300 to 500 years old, and has been run by the Rothschild Empire, who said, if I control people's money, I control them. So are we still really willing to be controlled by the Rothschilds?
Yeah, and we need to get that. That's so good that you bring that up, because we need to understand all the implications of that.
Yes.
I like to say a lot that every time you use any type of currency, you're getting systemically robbed. You're getting taxed just because you're using that currency.
Yeah.
So you're getting impoverished by the money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the effort that you're putting into getting that money, that whatever you're producing, is getting devalued. It's getting robbed on because you don't want to face, of course, the very complex process of creating a life for yourself where you wouldn't need to use that money, which is
well, here's the thing. I just read in this leadership book today about bosses, bad bosses and good bosses, right? And there was one story about how a boss was lonely, he was single, and he didn't want to go home. So all his workers ended up having to spend all night at the office with him and work the hours he worked. It's because he didn't have a life he considered worth living. And I thought, or that he wanted to live. And I thought about the same thing. Jaime works. I mean, this summer he has worked more weekends than he hasn't. His bosses must not actually want to live their lives there.
That's what I'm getting to today, like the resonance from today's Nawal is that just comes out somewhere. It shows up, even as much as you want to hide it, because you need to keep living. You can't just quit life like that. Then it just shows up in every single thing you do, that you have no purpose, that you're unconnected to divinity because you have not found a purpose, which the purpose is as simple as, I was hearing this video from this guy, and I like the metaphor of the universe walking to a lesser, like the purpose is simply a lesser entropy. So as you search for lesser entropy, love is the way towards love, cooperation. The other side is fear and not trusting. So if we are so caught in the fear system that we've lost that connection with where we should be walking to.
Yeah.
Which is towards love, which is towards cooperation, which is towards, instead of thinking, I like that, I even wrote it down. It says, instead of thinking, what's in it for me, you need to think, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
So, wow. So I hope this has been helpful for everyone, and we invited anyone that listening to this, you can always engage with us, and we can always invite you into the show or into anything. Just contact us and we'll be in touch. Anything else? Do you want to leave it like it is till next week?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then. Well, since waterfalls, we send waterfalls of blessings to everyone, and see you next week.
Yeah.